to know.
Now, back live with Andrew Bolt with the Bolt Report.
On Wednesday, we will learn the result of the public vote on same-sex marriage. It's almost certain to be a very big yes. But then what? Until now, the Turnbull government hasn't said what, if any, protections will be given to anyone who objects to same-sex marriage. Will you be able to say you're against it, for instance? Already priests have been dragged before an anti-discrimination tribunal for opposing it. Will you be able to say, if you're, say, a wedding planner, no, I don't want to work on a gay marriage because I object to them for religious or other reasons? A Christian florist in America has already been sued for saying no. Today, Senator James Paterson, a libertarian and supporter of same-sex marriage, presented a draft bill to guarantee all those freedoms. He joins me now. James, thanks for your time. Until now, there's only been one bill that's been talked about addressing this freedom issue, and that's of another Liberal senator, Dean Smith, who wants only freedom for clerics to say no to presiding over gay marriages. How does your bill differ from that one?
Well, mine goes quite a bit further. It ensures that those freedoms that we grant to priests, imams and rabbis also extends to their congregation, because the right to religious liberty is a universal human right for all Australians. It's not one which is restricted by your profession. It's not a right you're only entitled to if a church employs you. And it's a right that you enjoy not just in your church, but once you walk out the church doors and live your life out in the world. You should be able to live your life according to your religious values. And in my view, although protecting religious values is very important, so is protecting the conscientious values of people who aren't religious, like myself, who may have secular or other reasons for opposing same-sex marriage. That right to conscientious freedom or freedom of conscience must be protected too, and it does that too.
So you're going to overturn state anti-discrimination rules and say, so a florist or someone says, for these reasons, I don't want to be part of your same-sex marriage, your wedding, whether it's religious or just philosophical, they can't be sued.
That's basically right, Andrew, but in a very precise way, only relating to a wedding ceremony or reception. So to take the famous example that people use about a baker who bakes cakes, they would not be allowed, it would continue to be illegal to refuse to bake a cake for someone who is gay, for example, for their birthday. But if a gay couple asked that bakery to bake a cake for their wedding ceremony or celebration, they should be able to say no, because if they're not able to say no, then anti-discrimination law effectively forces them to violate their conscience on threat of being sued and potentially fined and losing or damaging their business. And I don't think we should allow that to happen, because it would breach religious liberty and freedom of conscience.
Now, critics are saying that this is just allowing people to be homophobes. They say that people can say, well, look, I'm not going to rent out to you my reception hall for a gay wedding because I don't like gays anyway, or they may not say it, but that's because they're doing it, or why they're doing it. Do you think that's a problem? Well, I mean,
I'm not a gay person, but if I was and I was getting married, I wouldn't want to go and get married somewhere where they weren't delighted to have me. And I suspect the vast majority of venues available for hire, florists, bakers, all other service providers for weddings are actually pretty excited about the increased business opportunities that are going to come from same-sex marriage, and be pretty happy to serve gay couples. But for those few that don't, I don't think we should have a situation where they can be compelled to act against their conscience. I think that's wrong.
Well, we now don't allow people to refuse service to someone of a different race, like, I don't serve Africans or I don't serve Chinese. We don't allow that. That's racism. But you say we should allow people to refuse service to a wedding of a couple of the same gender. What's the difference between those two forms of discrimination?
Well, there's two important issues here, Andrew. One is I think it's a bit unfair to compare people who have a sincere belief in traditional marriage to racists. I don't think they're direct equivalents. The version of marriage which we have has been the case for many, many years and is reflected in the law today. And if it were to be different tomorrow, I don't think all of a sudden the people who hold that belief should be treated as these outrageous racists. But the second important thing is there's no one in Australia who is seriously calling for exemptions on the basis of race. There's no one who says they really want to be able to discriminate against people on the basis of race. Please give me an exemption from the law. But I suspect in the survey results on Wednesday, we'll discover that 30, maybe 40% of Australians have voted no know, and they will have a reasonable expectation that they'll be able to continue to hold their beliefs, maybe not use their beliefs to deny others from being married, but certainly be able to hold their beliefs themselves without being forced to breach those beliefs.
But this is said to be a tactic by Liberal Conservatives who also back your bill. You're not a Conservative, you're a Libertarian, but they're behind you as well. That their real plan here is to delay voting for same-sex marriage. I just wonder if that's the aim of some of your bill supporters, hoping that if your bill is somehow blocked in the Senate, say, that, well, then all bets are off, no gay marriage.
Well, Andrew, as you know, it's certainly not my aim. I want to have same-sex marriage in this country, and I can't speak for anyone else who may support my bill, and I look forward to seeing comments from anyone who has views on my bill. But can I say, no one in Parliament is seriously considering delaying this legislation. Everyone agrees, if there's a yes vote, this should be done by Christmas. It would be the height of folly to try and delay it beyond that. It would be wrong morally, because there would have been a vote, and we should be acting on that vote, but it's also not even in the government's interest. We don't want to delay this any more than necessary. We want to resolve it, hopefully positively, before Christmas.
No, but it won't work if the Labor and the Greens will say, and they will say, you're just this bill allows homophobia, we cannot permit it. What, then you give in and say we'll vote for same-sex marriage anyway? Do you say no, it's if we have same-sex marriage, this bill must go with it? I mean, you can see why it would delay same-sex marriage potentially.
Well, I'm not assuming, Andrew, that Labor will operate as a monolith on this. They have said it will be a free vote for their members, and there are a number of Labor MPs to varying degrees have indicated they're either opposed to same-sex marriage or worried about the consequences of same-sex marriage. So I think it'll be very interesting to watch how some of those Labor members choose to vote. But ultimately, I think everyone agrees a bill needs to pass before Christmas. I'll be fighting very hard to make sure that it's a bill that has really strong, robust protections.
Just finally, before you go, we got the news poll has you so far behind, 45% to 55%. You've been behind for more than a year, getting further and further behind. Why has Malcolm Turnbull failed for so long to connect to voters, do you think?
Well, Andrew, I'm not surprised that this poll was particularly bad, because it's been a particularly messy couple of weeks. The citizenship crisis is really testing the patience of the Australian people, and I understand why they're frustrated.
It's not just this one, James. It's not just this. It's been for more than a year. How's he not connecting?
Well, I think that the Australian people are tough markers. They have high expectations of us as politicians and as a government, and they're entitled to. Every poll that shows that we're behind, whether it's by a little bit or a lot, is a reminder that we have to be delivering for the Australian people every day. Now, I'm very confident that our government does that. I'm very confident that our Prime Minister does that our policies do that. But the challenge for us is to demonstrate that to Australian people and explain it to them, and that's a task that all of us collectively share.
Well, it's whatever you're doing, it's not working, unfortunately, James Paterson. But look, I congratulate you for taking freedom seriously enough. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.